6 years ago, I sat across from my father in his luxurious corner office at Morgan Stanley, my business proposal clutched in trembling hands. The Manhattan skyline stretched behind him, a perfect backdrop for his daily performances of superiority. A tech startup? He didn't even bother looking at my meticulously prepared presentation. Samantha, we've discussed this. Real success comes from established institutions, not these Silicon Valley pipe dreams. Dad, if you just look at the projections. Don't waste my time with your small business ideas, he scoffed, checking his Patek Philippe watch. I have a board meeting in 10 minutes. Real business, not some, what did you call it? Quantum computing solutions for financial markets, I said quietly. He laughed, actually laughed. Stick to what you know. Take the junior analyst position I arranged at Goldman. In 10 years you might make VP. I don't want to be a VP, I insisted. I want to build something revolutionary. My algorithms could change how the entire market operates. Enough. His fist hit the mahogany desk. I didn't pay for your MIT degree so you could play entrepreneur. Either take the Goldman position or don't come asking me for anything again. I stood up slowly, gathering my untouched proposal. You know what, Dad? Keep your job offer. I'll figure it out myself. Don't be dramatic, he sighed. Where will you get startup capital? Who would invest in a 24-year-old with no experience? Watch me, I said, walking out of his office for the last time. That night, I emptied my trust fund, the one thing I had left from my mother before cancer took her when I was 12. $200,000. Not much by startup standards, but enough to rent a tiny office and hire 2 brilliant programmers who believed in my vision. For the next 6 years, I disappeared from my father's world. No fancy charity galas, no country club memberships, no family dinners where he could parade his latest protégé while lamenting his daughter's foolish choices. I worked. I built. I innovated. The first year was brutal. Ramen noodles and sleepless nights. My small team huddled in our cramped office, debugging code until dawn. But slowly, surely, our quantum computing platform began to take shape. Year 2 brought our first major client. Year 3, our first acquisition of a smaller tech firm. By year 4, Walker Enterprises, named for my mother's maiden name, had offices in 3 cities and a growing reputation in the fintech world. I kept my name out of the press, operating through a complex web of holding companies. As far as the financial world knew, S.J. Walker was a mysterious tech genius revolutionizing market analytics. Only a handful of people knew that this stood for Samantha. Now 6 years later, I sat in my own corner office, watching a different Manhattan skyline. Walker Enterprises occupied the top 10 floors of a gleaming tower in the heart of the financial district. Our quantum computing platform processed 70% of all NYSE trades. Our predictive algorithms were the industry standard. And my father had no idea. Ms. Walker. My assistant Diana's voice came through the intercom. Your 2 p.m. interview is here. I smiled, thinking of the sequence of events that led to this moment. 3 months ago, Morgan Stanley had suffered a catastrophic trading loss. Their outdated systems failed to predict a market shift that our algorithms had seen coming weeks in advance. The board demanded modernization. Heads rolled, including my father's. Send him in, I said, swiveling my chair to face the window. Behind me, I heard the door open, followed by familiar footsteps. Thank you for seeing me, my father's voice, less confident than I remembered. I know I'm overqualified for a senior advisor position, but given recent events. Please sit down, Mr. Harrison, I said, still facing the window. I've prepared a comprehensive overview of my experience, he continued. 30 years at Morgan Stanley, the last 15 as head of global trading. I believe I could bring significant value to Walker Enterprises, despite the unfortunate circumstances of my departure. I turned slowly, savoring the moment. Hello, Dad. The color drained from his face. The resume in his hands trembled slightly. Samantha. Welcome to Walker Enterprises, I said from the CEO's chair. Let's discuss your small business ideas. The silence in my office was deafening. My father's face cycled through a kaleidoscope of emotions: shock, disbelief, anger, and finally something that looked remarkably like fear. This is impossible, he whispered, his eyes darting around the vast office, taking in the industry awards, the wall of patents, the holographic display showing real-time quantum processing metrics. Walker Enterprises is. You're S.J. Walker? Surprise, I said dryly. Though I'm a bit disappointed. Didn't you do your research before the interview? That's not like you, Dad. He slumped in his chair, the perfectly pressed resume falling from his fingers. I tried. Walker Enterprises is notoriously private. The ownership structure is complex. Deliberately so. I stood up, walking to the quantum display. 5 holding companies, 3 offshore trusts, and a maze of shell corporations. I learned that from you, actually. Remember how you used to brag about Morgan Stanley's tax avoidance strategies at dinner? Those dinners, he said quietly. You stopped coming. 6 years ago. Right after you told me not to waste your time. I turned to face him. Funny how time works, isn't it? Now you're here asking for mine. He straightened his tie, a nervous habit I remembered from childhood. The Morgan Stanley situation. It wasn't my fault. Our systems were obsolete, I finished. Your trading algorithms couldn't predict the market shift because they were based on traditional models. But ours could. I gestured to the holographic display. 3 weeks before your collapse, our quantum platform flagged the anomaly. We warned our clients. They listened. That's why Peterson Capital pulled their portfolio, he realized. And Goldman, they all knew? They all used our system. Everyone except Morgan Stanley. I smiled thinly. You were too proud to admit the market had changed. That a small business idea could outperform 30 years of traditional trading. Diana's voice came through the intercom. Ms. Walker, the board of directors is ready for your call. Thank you, Diana. Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes. I sat back down behind my desk. Now about your application. Samantha, please. He leaned forward. I know I made mistakes. I was wrong about your vision. But I'm still your father. Surely that counts for something. I pulled up his resume on my tablet. Interesting appeal. Let's review some history, shall we? When I started Walker Enterprises, I approached 5 major banks for partnerships. Each one rejected us. Know why? He shook his head. Because the head of global trading at Morgan Stanley told them not to waste their time. Called us amateur hour. Said we'd never understand real finance. I didn't know it was you. Would it have mattered? I asked sharply. If you'd known S.J. Walker was your daughter, would you have seen the potential? Or would you have dismissed it just the same? The silence that followed was answer enough. Here's what's going to happen, I continued, my voice cool and professional. I'm offering you a position junior risk analyst, level 2. Starting salary is $85,000. Junior. But I was making millions at Morgan Stanley. We're being the operative word. I slid a contract across the desk. You'll report to Director Zhang in risk management. Yes, she's 32. No, she doesn't care about your former title. This is ridiculous, he sputtered. I have 30 years of experience in obsolete systems and failed strategies. I stood up. The position is available for the next 24 hours. Take it or leave it. Either way, this interview is over. He stared at the contract, his hands shaking slightly. And if I refuse? Then you can join the other dinosaurs who thought quantum computing was a pipe dream. I hear Lehman Brothers is having a reunion. Just then Diana entered with a stack of reports. Ms. Walker, your next appointment is here. And Tokyo office needs approval on the new algorithm deployment. I nodded, already turning my attention to the reports. Thank you, Diana. Mr. Harrison knows his way out. Unless. I looked up at my father. Do you need time to review the contract? He picked up the document slowly, decades of arrogance crumbling under the weight of reality. I'll need to discuss this with my lawyer. Of course. Diana will show you out. I turned back to my work, then paused. Oh, and Dad, if you take the position, remember, here you're not my father. You're employee number 2847. Think you can handle that? The next morning, Diana placed my father's signed contract on my desk. He'd accepted the position junior risk analyst, level 2. The mighty had indeed fallen. What followed over the next few months was a masterclass in corporate karma. The man who had once commanded a global trading floor now sat in a cubicle, learning quantum algorithms from programmers half his age. His designer suits looked increasingly out of place among our casual tech environment. His attempts to throw around his former title were met with blank stares from millennials who'd never heard of him. I watched it all through the office surveillance system, maintaining my distance. He tried to catch my eye in the elevator, attempted to schedule family dinners, even sent elaborate birthday gifts to my office. I returned them all unopened. 3 months into his new role, Director Zhang requested a meeting. "Your father," she said, settling into my visitor's chair, "is actually not terrible." I raised an eyebrow. High praise. He's arrogant, yes. Stubborn, definitely. But... She pulled up some performance metrics on her tablet. "He's learning. His traditional market knowledge combined with our quantum systems, he's spotting patterns we missed." Interesting. I studied the data. He'd identified 3 market anomalies that our algorithms had overlooked, saving clients millions in potential losses. "He stays late," Zhang continued. "Takes tutorials from the junior devs without complaining. Yesterday I found him debugging code with the interns." "People can surprise you," I said quietly, thinking of the father who had once dismissed coding as glorified typing. "He never mentions that you're his daughter," Zhang added. "Though everyone knows. Office gossip travels faster than quantum particles." I smiled despite myself. And his attitude? Humbled. Though he did have one request. He handed me a folder. "He's developed a hybrid trading model. Quantum computing combined with traditional market psychology. It's impressive." I spent that evening reviewing his proposal. The same proposal format I'd brought to his office 6 years ago, now filled with ideas that bridged the gap between old and new finance. His notes showed countless revisions, late-night calculations, careful integration of quantum principles with traditional trading wisdom. At midnight, my private elevator dinged. Diana entered, looking apologetic. "He's still here. Floor 82, workstation 47. Security says he's been there since 7 a.m. I took the elevator down. The office was dark except for a single light. My father hunched over his desk, surrounded by quantum visualization printouts and market trend analyses. "Most junior analysts don't work these hours," I said, making him jump. "Samantha. Ms. Walker." He straightened, trying to tidy his cluttered desk. "I was just reviewing the Asian market correlations. I read your proposal." His hands stilled. "Oh. The integration of quantum predictive models with human behavior patterns. It's not something we considered. Machines can predict numbers," he said carefully, "but markets are moved by people. Fear, greed, intuition. Quantum computers can't fully grasp human irrationality. But they can analyze patterns," I finished. "While humans can understand the emotions behind them." "Exactly." His eyes lit up with the same passion I'd had 6 years ago. "If we combine both approaches, we could revolutionize market prediction all over again." I sat on the edge of his desk. "Why didn't you think this way before? When I came to you with my ideas?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because I was afraid," he finally admitted. "Your mother. She was always the visionary one. After we lost her, I clung to what I knew. Traditional, safe, proven methods. When you came to me with ideas about quantum computing, you saw her," I finished softly. "I saw her brilliance in you and it terrified me." He ran a hand through his graying hair. "So I did what scared men often do. I dismissed what I didn't understand. And now. He gestured to his workstation. "Now I understand that the future doesn't wait for our comfort. You proved that. Built all this while I was clinging to the past." I picked up one of his diagrams, an elegant fusion of quantum mathematics and market psychology. We're launching a new division. Hybrid trading solutions. It needs a director." His head snapped up. "Samantha. The salary is better than junior analyst," I continued. "Though still not Morgan Stanley levels. You'd report directly to Zhang with a team of 5 to start." "Why?" he asked quietly. "After everything." "Because good leaders recognize valuable ideas regardless of source." I stood up. "Even if that source once dismissed their own." "I was wrong," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "So wrong. About everything." "Yes, you were." I headed for the elevator, then paused. "The position starts Monday. Dad. The dress code is business casual. Those Italian suits are overkill." He laughed, a genuine laugh I hadn't heard since before Mom died. Does this mean we can have dinner sometime? As colleagues? Baby steps, I smiled. But bring that proposal on quantum human market integration. We can discuss it over coffee. In the employee lounge like normal coworkers. Over the next year, Walker Enterprises' new hybrid trading division, under my father's leadership, revolutionized market prediction yet again. Our client base doubled. The financial press called it a perfect marriage of tradition and innovation. They didn't know how perfect. One evening I found a small package on my desk. Inside was a framed photo of me at age 12, sitting on Mom's lap as she explained some complex equation. With it was a note. She would be so proud of what you've built. Not just the company but the leader you've become. Thank you for teaching this old dinosaur to evolve. Employee number 2847, Dad. I placed the photo next to my quantum displays, a reminder that sometimes the biggest innovations come from bridging the gap between past and future, between parent and child, between what was and what could be. The next morning I stopped by the employee lounge for coffee. My father was there in khakis and a polo shirt, enthusiastically explaining quantum mechanics to a group of young analysts. Ms. Walker, they greeted me with respect. Morning, Ms. Walker, my father echoed, his eyes twinkling. I poured my coffee, hiding a smile. Sometimes success isn't just about proving someone wrong, it's about giving them the chance to prove themselves right. Director Harrison, I nodded professionally. I hear the Singapore office needs a quantum human market analysis. Interested in a business trip? Lead the way, Ms. Walker, he replied. I've learned to never waste your time. And just like that we found our balance. Not as the father who had dismissed my dreams or the daughter who had surpassed his achievements, but as two professionals who had finally learned to see each other's value.